next contestant comes out of New York. Sasha, also known as Alexander, designed the Armada. He says that his frame was designed with three things in mind: weight, adjustability, and cost. It's lightweight with numerous shock positions and 6 affordable parts. Well, Sasha wins bragging rights for the most enthusiasm. Unfortunately, though, that does not have its own award. Well, Dave Mee, he's going to walk us through what Sasha's design's supposed to do.
He's got a high pivot. It's not exactly an innovation, but it does allow for an initial rearward wheel path, which is going to make this bike really gobble up square edge bumps. He's got multiple mounting positions for his shock in the bottom here. He says that will allow geometry changes and change in suspension feel. He claims that this bike is adjustable from 6 inches to 9.5 inches of travel. When the swing arm swings up in this rearward path, pulls on this arm along the bottom here, rotating this shock activation link, which then compresses the shock.
Well, thanks so much for explaining it for us, Dave. Let's see how the Armada, not a fleet of warships, does when it goes down the Gauntlet.
I really enjoy explaining this particular frame to you because what Alexander did was talk about 2 important features in design. And when we're creating the model, sometimes you don't think about these right away, but his first paragraph in his submission was about material. And then he talked about keeping costs down.
Sasha, I really liked your emphasis on cost. I thought that's a very valid consideration.
It could be pretty cost effective if that was actually done on a plate and then it has a tubular backbone kind of assembly.
I have some questions about how good a frame this would make.
I think, it could be pretty strong, and if it was done right, it could be relatively light.
Do you really think that the overall weight is going to be lighter? Because I didn't see anywhere where you actually weighed the whole frame.
What happens if you get a crack on the down tube? Or you dent it or something like that? Will it be structurally weakened?
And generally in these kind of designs you would get tremendous amount of pedal kickback when the suspension is activated, which would make it very hard to pedal through rough sections.
My personal bias, if I saw a frame like this, I would expect it to be very flexy. I think if you wanted it to be stiff, these plates would have to be so thick that you would negate any weight savings from using plates instead of the tubing.
How long would it really last?
It may not work that great as a suspension design itself, but there's some neat construction. He actually made his model out of paper mache, and I can remember myself doing things like this when I first started to design and build mountain bike frames, because I didn't have all the equipment, but I didn't let any excuses get in my way either, so I would just make them out of plywood and whatever with drywall screws and whatever it took.
When you are designing, you want to put in the limits of your range of motion. Overall, a good concept, a good design. Alex is open to selection of different materials at different cost points if this design goes forward.
Cheaper, undoubtedly, but I think it's going to become at a performance benefit.
It's definitely very eye-catching. I mean, it would be an interesting build for sure. But I'd say it's definitely not needed.
Well, let's recap what the judges had to say. Mike said it was definitely very eye-catching. It would be an interesting build for sure, but definitely not needed.
Jeff said it would be cost-effective, pretty strong, if it was done right, pretty light. Maria liked that you talked about, as she said, 2 important features in design: material and keeping the cost down.
And Joanne said that she really liked your emphasis on cost. Overall, Marie thought it was a good concept and a good design. And Dave said that he had some questions on how good a frame this would make.
I thought it was really cool that Sasha created his design out of paper mache, and how Jeff said that back in the day he would use plywood and drywall screws.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Goes to show how things could start. Jeff, a pioneer in the frame making world. Very, very cool to have him part of this. And Sasha, who knows? You may eventually have a company as cool as Intense.